The lack of news about the Cincinnati Reds finalized roster brings up two questions that I have. One of them is a move imminent, and the second one's a lot more confusing.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Reds. My name is Jeff Carr, and I am a lifelong Cincinnati Reds fan. Been covering this team for now 7 seasons on the Locked On Reds podcast that is brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every single day, and I am so excited. We're just a couple of ways from the regular season starting tonight, being the big time game, the Reds versus the Reds prospects up at DayAir Ballpark. I actually have Tom Nichols, voice of the Dragons, joining me here in just a few minutes. We're going to break down the prospect roster, a couple of guys to keep an eye on in this game. We're also going to talk about the 25th anniversary of the Dayton Dragons. This is kind of the kickoff celebration for the Dragons, this Reds versus Reds prospects game. We're going to look into that, and we get into some Billy Hamilton talk during that 25th anniversary. You're not going to want to miss that. That's later on in the show. But I want to start off today's show with this. I was expecting to talk about a finalized roster. There were 2 spots that were opened up after a couple of pitching cuts and different injury decisions and things like that. Those 2 spots have not yet been decided on. There were 3 guys really vying for that spot. And because we continue to sit here and wonder, and maybe by the let me check again. Nope. I mean, keep checking all day to see if there's news about a finalized roster, and we still don't have one. So that gives me 2 questions. Number one, are the Reds about to make a move? And I feel like that one almost is inherent in all of this. You don't even have to read the tea leaves that hard to ask that question. But the second question is a little bit more difficult than just, are they going to go make a move? The second question that I have, you remember a couple of years ago, there was this big point made that Nick Krall and David Bell and the managerial staff and everybody was in line. The organization was in line. That was like a big deal. They made a big point about that. That's not, nobody's been talking about that since Terry Francona got hired. It's clear that Terry Francona is running this team. Terry Francona's got the everyday side of things, the lineup, the pitching staff, how everything shakes out. Nick Krall puts the personnel together. It's clear that Terry Francona does not agree with all the personnel that Nick Krall has put together. Otherwise, we would have our 26-man roster. Because there's this thing, and I try to tell people that there is more to spring training evaluation than just the numbers. And this is a perfect example of that, because there's so many people that are jumping on this right now and they're saying, see, we told you Stuart Fairchild's horrible spring training numbers mean that he's not going to make the opening day roster. Well, if that were the case, the Reds would have announced that Blake Dunn and Jacob Hurtubise were the 25th and 26th man. The roster would be finalized. There's more to it than that. So that's where I lead to, looks like maybe they're looking into a move. Maybe they're negotiating, because there is a free agent out there, albeit not a very attractive free agent for the Reds to bring in, because they're looking for a bench role. They're not looking for an impact role. You're not bringing in JD Martinez right now. You're bringing in a guy who has been with another team in a major league camp, somebody who's ready. Because again, if they were to sign a JD Martinez, they would have to ramp him up. And what that looks like for a DH is totally different for other positions, but still think you got to give him at bats. So if you were to sign a guy like that, you would have to ramp him up. The Reds are looking for a guy that has, gotten spring training reps in. He's stretched out. He's ready to go. He's ready to play. So with that, I'm looking at Mitch Haniger. Mitch Haniger was cut by the Seattle Mariners, just given his outright release a couple of days ago. Again, I told you, nobody that's really going to set the world on fire. I mean, Mitch Haniger had an amazing season. He was a 6.5 WAR player, an all-star, and he looked really good in 2018. It's been a while. And he had a 2.8 WAR season in 2021, but since then, so I guess 3 seasons really. His last 3 seasons have been like absolute zero. No better, no worse than the league, the replacement level player. And in fact, these last 2 seasons, in over 181 games, he has negative 0.4 WAR. We're not talking about somebody that's going to light the world on fire. And I think that's where all of this is taking so long. They look at Stuart Fairchild, they look at Blake Dunn, they look at Jacob Hurtubise, and they see the same guy. And Terry Francona says, I don't need 2 of the same player. And I get it. Jacob Hurtubise is left-handed, the other 2 are right-handed. But he's like, they all do the same thing. I need something else. And maybe they're looking at that. I don't think it's a big move. I'm not getting excited about some headline-grabbing trade. They're not going for Luis Robert right now. That's not happening. I would be shocked. Just absolute, out-of-body experience if that happened. But I am a little surprised that we haven't finalized the roster yet. And that, to me, belies the question of not that there is friction or strife or disagreements, but it's just Nick Krall puts together the roster. Terry Francona employs the roster. Terry Francona saying, what you've given me, I need one more guy. You haven't given me 26 guys. You've given me 25 guys. Because, they've already cut Cooper Bowman. He's back in, I almost said Oakland. Drop a penny in the jar. He's back with the A's. They've already sent down Will Benson, and I don't think that they're bringing him back up. I think that it's between the 3 guys that are still remaining in camp. Like I said, Stu, Hurtubise, and Blake Dunn. And Terry Francona's not intrigued. He's like, we'll keep one. I need somebody else. And that's where I tried to really look into it. Like, Mitch Haniger seems like the only obvious guy out there. There's probably somebody that we don't know that the Reds end up getting. But as far as what I think Terry Francona would want, I think he would want experience if they were going to go out and get a guy. They'd want experience and somebody who's been working out during spring training, not a free agent that hasn't been signed yet, that's been sitting or, training on their own outside of a team environment, outside of a spring training facility. They're not looking at those guys. So they're looking at guys that have been cut from spring training camp. So this move's not going to be that inspiring to us, but it's something that Terry Francona himself is looking for, because what he sees in this current roster, he's missing for that final bench spot. And I think a lot of us as fans probably underrate this spot to a degree, because we're probably all just thinking, yeah, whatever. Dunn and Hurtubise, fine. Dunn and Fairchild, fine. Hurtubise and Fairchild, fine. Whatever it is. But there's something that Terry Francona wants that he doesn't have, and that's what he's looking for here. So ultimately, that move is going to surprise us. I don't even think it's Mitch Haniger. But if I'm looking at waiver wires and think, people who are available, who have been in other major league camps, that's kind of who I circle in on. I'm not creating a wish list here, but I find it intriguing that we still do not have, at least as of recording, and I'm recording this pretty late on Monday night, we don't have a finalized roster for your Reds. We know who the pitching staff is. That's all set. Ian Gibaut made the roster. Alexis Diaz starts on the injured list. The bullpen is set. The starting rotation is set. Carson Spires, the 5th man, Andrew Abbott, injured list. So we know the pitching staff. We know the everyday 8, or we know for the most part the starters. I say everyday 8, that doesn't exist anymore. But we know for pretty much the starters, Austin Wynns is backing up Jose Trevino at catcher because of Tyler Stevenson starting the year on the injured list. And with Spencer Steer on on the injured list, that opened up the extra bench spot. That's why there are 2 spots for the 3 outfielders that I mentioned and not 1. It'd probably be finalized if Stewart was not hitting the IL. But because he's hitting the IL, they're looking for a very finite, specific type of player. The other part of this is whoever they're signing, they're either sending down to AAA or they're cutting whenever Spencer Steer's healthy, and whenever that might be. But it's just such a weird situation here, this final bench spot, that we're still talking about it, and we're headed to the final exhibition game. Most teams have finalized their roster to this point. The Reds haven't. It's very intriguing. But hey, there's plenty to look forward to in this exhibition game up in Dayton, the Reds versus Reds prospects game. And Tom Nichols, the voice of the Dayton Dragons, joins me to discuss that next. If you're like me and every so often you do really care about what you put into your body, then Just Ingredients is exactly what you're looking for, because they obsess over the fine details. They obsess over the best possible ingredients for you, whether it's through whey protein, whether it's through creatine. They've got pre-workouts. They've got so much different stuff. I've been using a lot of the whey protein trying to, get a little bit more trim for the baseball season. They've got this NSF certified ingredients with their protein powder and everything. It's all guaranteed to be the best stuff for you. In fact, it's so clean that Bryce Harper is partnering with them. They really love the right stuff. You got to check out Just Ingredients. Go to justingredients.us to learn more today about what products will fit your life the best. Plus, you can use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB and get 20% off. And for more wellness tips, follow at just.ingredients on Instagram. If you've ever wanted an app that keeps everything all in one place when it comes to your financials, your deposit accounts, your credit accounts, all the different accounts, you got to check out Monarch Money. You got to go to monarchmoney.com right now. It's like having your own personal CFO. You see all of your accounts in one place, whether it be your bank account, whether it be your investments, your 401ks and all that good stuff. It's all right there. Monarch Money makes it so easy to not just track your spending, but also build wealth, because you can plan for the future. No more living paycheck to paycheck. You set your budget. You can set some savings goals and so many other great things. I love using Monarch Money because you can also set up alerts, whether it be spending alerts or deposit alerts. Check out monarchmoney.com today and take control of your finances with Monarch Money. You can also use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com and code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Thanks for making us your first listen, your second listen, however many listens every single day. And shout out to our everydayers out there. If you're not an everydayer, hit that subscribe button, because we've got so much content coming for you the rest of this week, all throughout the season, covering you every single day, talking about the Cincinnati Reds. All right, big night tonight. We've got Reds versus Reds prospects, a really fun game going on up at DayAir Ballpark in Dayton, Ohio. If you can't get up to it, man, you're going to miss out. It's going to be a lot of fun. And joining us here today to talk to us about who we can expect to go up against the opening day roster of the Cincinnati Reds from within their own organization, he is Tom Nichols. He is the voice of the Dayton Dragons, covering the team now for 18 seasons, 18 of the 25 seasons, as we were kind of talking about. Tom, I'm really glad to have you on. Really glad that it's almost baseball season. And who's the first person that you're really excited about to see on the Reds prospect side of things?
On the Reds prospect side of things, I think right now the guy that probably has raised the interest level the highest is Sal Stewart. And he'll be on the roster, I believe. So that's a guy that had an interesting spring training, and of course had a big year with us in 2024, although it was injury shortened. But he did have a very good year. I think if things had gone without the injury, a good chance he would have probably been the Reds minor league player of the year. And in my mind, certainly one of their top prospects. So that's a guy. The question has been, Jeff, projecting his long-term position. And, a lot of the fans, they wonder, well, if this guy's, for example, if he's now Stewart's not a shortstop, but take Edwin Arroyo, for instance. We got a shortstop, hopefully the next 15 years, and nobody's moving him off that position. So why do we need more shortstops? Well, the way it's gone over the years, that is the most athletic position on the field, and those guys get moved. I mean, Todd Frazier was a shortstop in Dayton, believe it or not. If you can imagine that. Todd Frazier was our starting shortstop opening day. My first year with the Dragons, 2008, he was our opening day starting shortstop. Billy Hamilton was our starting shortstop all season in 2011. So it was common to see guys play that position and then maybe move to a different. I mean, Matt McLain played shortstop with the Dragons in 2021. He's now a second baseman. So it has happened. I think the expectation is that Ellie will stay at shortstop and others will have to move. So we'll see how it happens. Now, getting back to Sal Stewart for a minute, would he stay at third base? And, I'm pretty honest when it comes to these things. And I would say he's got a chance to stay at third base if they want him to. He's a better defensive player than his reputation would have led you to believe. He's more athletic than his scouting report would lead you to believe. Now, is there a chance he'll still end up having to play first base? Maybe. But, I mean, he played second base for us as much last year as he did third base because Cam Collier was playing third. Collier's now since moved to first base, though he's out with an injury. And so we'll see. But Stewart's an interesting prospect for sure and a guy to follow if you're a fan. I think he's a big up-and-coming name in the Reds farm system.
Yeah, he's a guy that this spring really had the kind of spring that we saw from Edwin Arroyo back in 2023, where some people were starting to wonder, is he going to push for a major league call-up this year? I tend to believe that might be a bit of a stretch. Like, if we see him, it'll be maybe September. But just based on what you saw between the two positions, which do you think defensive? Is he better defensively at third base than at second?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I still don't think they're seriously considering him as a second baseman long-term at all. I think that's more he can play there. We know he can play third. He can play second. So we really have a need for a second baseman in some of these spring games. And you've had other people to play third base. You had Lux. You had Marte while he was there, Candelario. And so really to get Stewart in the lineup, you had to move. And that was, again, the whole case for the Dragons in 2024 was he played second base out of necessity as much as anything. And you had two third basemen, Collier and Stewart. You couldn't have both guys in the lineup. They haven't invented that rule yet that lets you put two guys on the field at the same position. So he had to play second base. And I think he probably played it better than most people would have expected, but not quite well enough. I remember 2 years ago, I think it was, and I had a good conversation with a key member of the Reds player development staff. I'm not going to say his name, but because he didn't give me all this on the record, but I took him through the whole infield from a future perspective, and we had conversations about a lot of guys. And one of the questions at that point was, is Matt McLain going to stay at shortstop? Because that was the position McLain was playing. And he said, well, I think he could play shortstop and be adequate there. But I think if you played him at second base, he's a gold glover. And so we'd rather have gold glovers on the field. So I think Matt McLain's a gold glover at second base and good enough to play short if you wanted to. And I said, okay, so who's your shortstop? And he immediately said, well, it's going to be Ellie. That was before Ellie had played a day in the big leagues. And so those two spots look now like they're set. There's been a little chatter about McLain still moving to the outfield, back to center field where he played his freshman year at UCLA. Right. And third base is still a question mark. I still think there's a good chance, in my opinion, it'll be Marte if he's all right. He just hasn't looked the same for a while now. I think maybe the the way events unfolded last year maybe took a toll on him, like sort of mentally and emotionally, and it's been hard for him to bounce back from that. Some guys struggle with problems, and they say in baseball it's a game where you have to be able to deal with failure, because even the best players, even the best hitter is going to fail 7 out of 10 times. We
Right.
saw that problem, I think, with Jose Barrero. He really struggled with the fact that things didn't really go very well at the beginning of his time in the big leagues, and he never really recovered from that. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, was it a Yogi Berra quote that it was like 90% of the game is half mental or something
Yeah,
like that?
I think it was. Yeah. So Marte, I mean, he obviously had issues last year. If you were to draw up the way you wouldn't want a season to go, it would be exactly the way it went for him. He had a suspension, and they sort of rushed him through his what would have been like spring training time. He didn't even hit. Remember, he was hitting like I'm not sure. Did he hit over 200 in Louisville? I think for a while he was under 200, and they called him up because they really hoped, out of hope, that he would come to the big leagues and play like he did in 23 when he hit over 300, and he got there and things didn't go well at all. So you should see Marte on the field with the prospect team tonight, and that's the player maybe in the minor leagues, Jeff, I'll be watching the closest in April.
Coming up, 25 years of the Dayton Dragons and why Billy Hamilton is the dude that sticks out the most to Tom Nichols. That's next. You are running out of time to take advantage of this easy over at FanDuel. You got to check out FanDuel.com today. And by the way, new users with your first $5 win can get $200 in bonus bets. With all the basketball going on, easy time to make a couple of extra bonus bucks over at FanDuel. But with the futures going on just a couple of days before opening day, the Reds are still setting at 79.5 wins as their over-under. As FanDuel has said, nobody's received more bets than the Cincinnati Reds to hit the over on their regular season win total of 79.5. I've already taken it. You should take it. In fact, I took it so many times I forgot that I took it once, and I took it again. So take the over. 79.5 wins for your Cincinnati Reds on FanDuel.com. FanDuel is the official sportsbook of Locked On. But looking forward to tonight's game. Hopefully, weather permitting. We love the weather around here, Southwest Ohio, in March and April. But looking at the reason for it and celebrating 25 years of the Dayton Dragons, just kind of looking back at your time with them, 18 years, what's some of your favorite memories just covering this team? I mean, I know that there's been plenty of major leaguers go their way through Dayton and plenty of great performers that aren't currently Reds. And actually, I just saw, I think Jose Siri is due to be the opening day center fielder for the Mets and batting ninth in their lineup. So that'll be interesting to watch as well.
We just are in the process of announcing our 12 greatest Dragons of our all time. And you'd have a hard time finding another minor league team anywhere with the names we've got. I mean, you're going back to the first year, Adam Dunn and Austin Kearns, and then you skip ahead to Joey Votto, Homer Bailey, and Jay Bruce and Johnny Cueto. And you get to Todd Frazier and Billy Hamilton and Jesse Winker, and then jump ahead to Ellie De La Cruz, Hunter Green. I skipped over; he's in there, and Zach Cozart. I skipped over Zach time-wise. All those guys. I mean, almost all those guys have been in the All-Star game. Hunter Green is also on that list. I think the guy that would have been the 13th guy that we would have, maybe if we had one more spot, would have been Edwin Encarnacion, who played in multiple All-Star games and had like 8 years in a row of 30 home runs in the big leagues. I mean, that guy didn't make our list. So that it's been a great time. If you ask me favorite memories, I'll give you a couple of things that were so much fun for me. Number one, the whole Billy Hamilton season, 2011, he stole 103 bases for us that year. And that doesn't even begin to tell you the stolen base number alone of how much fun he was to run the bases. all the time. I mean, scoring from second base on a wild pitch, tagging up at third and scoring on a sacrifice fly to the first baseman going out a little bit in the foul territory. All those things that fans saw him do in the big leagues that we saw all year in Dayton. That was so much fun. Just a shame that his offensive game never quite came along because defensively in center field, now he was a shortstop in Dayton, but in center field with the Reds, I think one of the greatest ever. Now, some would disagree with me maybe on that, but range-wise, I think it's hard to find a better center fielder. But and then also, if you were to say sort of the most dramatic would be you remember this maybe a little bit, Jeff. It's probably been forgotten by a lot of people, but not me. And that was Jose Siri broke the league record, which had stood for 40 years for longest hitting streak. And when we got to the point where he was starting to approach the record that had been set in 1977, every day, it didn't matter what the score of the game was or if we were winning or losing, you just waited for his time to bat to come up. And when it did, it was like, I can't even put into words how much fun that was. Like, okay, here we are. It's like the seventh game of a World Series. Is he going to extend the streak? And he did long enough to break that record. I actually interviewed the guy, Tony Toops, who had set the record in 1977 for the Waterloo Indians, a team that hadn't existed for decades now, and found him in Florida and interviewed him on the pregame that night. And Siri went out and broke the record and then extended it a few more games. And that whole record was, I mean, there's nothing, we haven't really had a chance maybe for a while if you're under the age of 50 and you don't really remember Pete Rose's hitting streak, his 44 game hitting streak with the Reds. And what was that, 78, I think? So, you can't remember that. So if you never really had a chance to enjoy a hitting streak and how it really is a unique thing in baseball because each day is a new day. And that's a fun thing. I hope the fans get a chance to really enjoy that some. Maybe they will with Ellie.
I'm hoping so. Ellie or McLean or somebody like that. Probably Ellie is the most likely.
I think because of his speed.
Like
yeah, the speed's a big weapon when you talk hitting streak because you can go out there and you can hit a slow ground ball and extend your hitting streak, which for a slow-footed catcher, you've got to hit a rocket somewhere along the 9 innings to extend the hitting streak. Ellie, all he's got to do is avoid striking out 4 times, and he's got a chance to do it.
Just put it in play, yeah. And that's funny because that you mentioned Billy Hamilton, and at that point I was living down in Huntsville, Alabama, which at the time was a AA affiliate of the Milwaukee Brewers. And whenever that was when the Pensacola Blue Wahoos were part of the Reds organization, and he got called up to Pensacola. And I remember going to every game of a 5-game set there. And there was a couple of times, not just once, but a couple of times that Billy would hit a ground ball to the second baseman. And the second baseman wasn't playing in some sort of extreme shift. He was playing in the normal second baseman slot, and he would beat the ball. He would beat the throw to first. And I'm just like, how? I blinked and he was there. I agree with you. I wish he would have developed more at the plate because it would have been great to see like a 15-year career of him and what he would have been able to accomplish.
We had a week that season, Jeff. We were on the road, so the home fans didn't see it. Billy was our leadoff guy. And so he started 4 games in a row with a base hit. And the first 3 games, first pitch to the next batter, stole second pitch, stole third. So that was the first 3 days in a row. And then the 4th day, he steals second on the first pitch. And then the second baseman goes over to the base and holds him on like a first baseman would hold somebody on base to keep him from stealing third. And there's no way you can steal third if the guy's doing it. It opens up the whole right side of the infield. Our number 2 hitter that year in our lineup was a little 5'7" pesky future major leaguer, not with the Reds, but he had a long career in the major leagues. His name was Ronald Torreyes. They traded him to the Cubs for a reliever named Sean Marshall, and he had a long career as a utility man. He was 5'7", and he hit second in our lineup that year. And Jeff, the Midwest League's a hard league to hit 300 in. We've only had a few in our history. Ronald Torreyes hitting second behind Billy Hamilton hit 336 that year. And that tells you how Billy affected the game overall. He was Torreyes saw nothing but fastballs when Billy was on base, and he could hit a fastball.
See, we were going good there. We were talking Billy Hamilton, and then you brought up Sean Marshall. Oh, boy. Anyway. Oh, man. Well, I tell you what, I am excited about this game. Looking forward to it. Real quickly, before we get out of here, what are some of the things that the Dragons are going to be doing all season long to celebrate the 25 years?
You'll see a lot of things. We've got a poster that I think is really nice that has all 12 of our greatest Dragons on it. It's a real high quality piece that our organization spent some money to have produced. It's very nice. If you were an autograph collector and you could get all 12 of them, which would be hard to do because most of those guys are retired now, you'd have to go to Beaumont, Texas to find Jay Bruce, and I'm not sure where you'd find Homer Bailey, but Adam Dunn and Austin Kearns are around somewhere, and Johnny Cueto, I don't think signed with anyone yet this season. He had like a 17-year career as a major league pitcher. So some of those guys you'd have a tough time getting to, but maybe you could. And we're going to have a lot of video clips, just sort of historical pieces that fans can enjoy. And just things all season long, special events at the ballpark involving our players. And it's something I think the fans will enjoy. But also, Jeff, as you know, I travel with our team and have forever. And I'm in the hotel, on the bus. And so I see these guys and get to know them. And there's a big age difference now. It used to be the players were older than I was when I started out. And now I'm older than the coaches. But time goes by, and I hope it means something to our guys as well, our players, that they can go out there and be part of this and be able to look back. Some will make the major leagues, some never will, but all of them can look back and say, I was part of something special. That's what I hope that they all will feel as they enjoy our 25th season. It'll be a year of 25 seasons will be 66 more sellouts. We see our numbers, and that's going to happen. And the game again tonight is a hard sellout, meaning there aren't any lawn tickets or standing room tickets available. Everything is gone. You cannot buy a ticket to get in the ballpark. So that'll be a fun night for everyone.
Make sure you get out at some point this year to a Dragons game, because it's one of the nicest ballparks in America, and I include major league ballparks in that. It is absolutely well worth the time. Tom, I appreciate you for joining me today and appreciate your time as well. And here we go. Really appreciate Tom's time and him joining me, but a lot of great stuff. It's always so easy to talk baseball with Tom Nichols. Got to get him on more. I'd maybe get some Dayton Dragons reports in here during the season, as they're going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of fun pitching there in Dayton, and maybe at some point in the year we see Alfredo Duno in a Dragons uniform. But that's going to do it for us here today on this edition of the Locked On Reds podcast. Coming up for you the rest of the week, we got a recap coming of the Reds versus Reds prospects episode. I'm going to be up in attendance, getting to talk to some of the players, hopefully talk to some of the coaches and things like that. Going to have a lot of content for you from that. Also going to be talking to Ben Kaspick from Locked On Giants, getting you set for opening day and the first couple of games against the Giants. And then, of course, we'll get you all ready for the season on opening day. Before the game starts, make sure you check out Locked On Reds. And hey, after the game's over, Tim Daniel has you covered with the Locked On Reds postcast. So much content here on the Locked On Reds channel for you all season long. Make sure that you subscribe, become an everydayer. We love our everydayers. Thank you so much for being a part of the show, because you know that we will be Locked On Reds every single day.